Everything the exclusive set build lacks, this version makes up for in spades, making this another excellent and surprisingly well balanced addition to the game. You know, sometimes first impressions are exactly that, an impression that doesn't tell the full story, and whilst I was blinded by the shiny new toy of a flamethrower underbarrel, I sort of failed to see the full picture of the Campbell LMG. If you don't tunnel vision your way to a fun but relatively balanced weapon, you can actually customize one of the most broken DLC weapons we've seen in years. It's an LMG with a fire rate of 1000, respectable damage in the mid-70s, and the potential to run at both 100 accuracy and full crit chance, if you just forego the gimmick of the flamethrower. If you ask me, winning a laser beam with the power to delete everything on the map trumps a little puff to set shields on fire. Here's my setup for a thoroughly broken Campbell LMG to tear your way through DSOD for the next few weeks before Overkill comes to their senses and hits it with the nerf hammer. First up, let's see how to modify the Campbell to turn it from gimmicky fun to the Giga Chad of LMGs, reminiscent of the KSP of yore that used to take over just about every DSOD lobby. We start by avoiding the exclusive set like the plague. One thing holds true from my initial video, and that is the fact that the minigun variant absolutely sucks without the damage to hold up on higher difficulties. Not to mention, it's possible to reach the key concealment breakpoint even without it. Instead, we're going to want to focus on min-maxing our accuracy and stability as much as we can. It is in fact possible to reach 100-100 with this thing if you're not bothered about crits, but to truly maximise its DPS, we are bothered, meaning after grabbing the Karloff barrel, we go for the Buckeye Suppressor, Concealment Boost, Mosley Sling, which might be one of the most overstated attachments in the game. I personally don't bother with a gadget at the moment, after all the laser is so far from pointing at where you're firing, it's actually a distraction, but I will equip the compact laser module once this is fixed. Avoid the Perkins softcase mag and the Infernal Flamethrower, as both are just a little too stat negative to work within this build. For the secondary, we're going to want to absolutely max out on concealment, meaning we can only pick from the pool of 33 to 34 concealment weapons. This means you have a choice between the Benetti and Gruber Kurz at 34, or if you want to trade off a little stability on your primary, you can always go for the Compact 5 SMG or Bronco at 33 max concealment. As this video focuses on maxing out the Campbell, I'll be going with the rather wimpy Benetti with the +3 concealment boost and size doesn't matter suppressor, but this is completely your call within the build you decide to make. As for my perk deck, I'm running Copycat Prospect, or Biker, as it's been one of my favourite armor-gating decks as of late, but this is another decision for you. So long as it works with max concealment and the suit, it will fit into this build, so go for Anarchist, Leech, Hacker, hell even Rogue if that's what floats your boat. Basically, you're going to want a fast and aggressive perk deck that complements your insanely consistent DPS really well. As for the build, I'm going to be going purely selfish for min-maxing purposes here, but you might want to move some skills around, in particular for Inspire with more of a team play focus. Personally, I basic out Combat Medic and Quick Fix before acing Combat Doctor for Doctor's Bags, ace out my usual Joker skills as this is a health orientated build with Confident and Partners in Crime both aced, and finally basic Stable Shot for a little more stability. In Enforcer, it's Resilience into Die Hard, Bullseye for extra armor gating, and Shock and Awe aced, as for once, we don't have a specific method to deal with shields. Scavenger Basic moves us on to Technician, where I've rather greedily aced out Steady Grip for handling stats alongside Surefire, Lock and Load and Body Expertise to really rip and tear with this LMG. Lock and Load aced might be overkill, especially with Copycat's instant reload mechanic, which has been slightly changed in this update to allow for an instant swap for a few seconds when activated, but I still find the reload speed helpful given the Campbell's high fire rate. In Ghost, I ace out Duck and Cover, Basic Inner Pockets, and surprisingly Dire Need. I know I once hated this skill, but now I love slotting it into any highly aggro armor gating setup if I get the chance, as that interruption makes the armor gating process that bit more consistent in my experience. In Silent Killer, we basic Second Wind, which pairs nicely with Dire Need, before racing out the Professional for improved handling, Optical Illusions to max out our crit chance, alongside Low Blow to activate it, finishing up with basic Unseen Strike, which is simply the best bang for your buck 4-point spend in the game. In Fugitive, it's just 9 lives aced for 1 down, and that's the build. We finish up with the Buzzer and Concussion Grenades as usual, and as promised that leaves us with max crit chance, 100 accuracy and 92 stability, basically unheard of outside of a few assault rifles in the game and certainly unique to the LMG category. Moving into the gameplay, this thing is totally unfair, for the cops that is. With crit, its DPS is ludicrous, and when we think of LMGs that can feasibly activate low blow crit, like the recently added Acheron, Versteckt or RPK, they're either designed to function more like assault rifles in the first place, or they control like a drunk Jimmy's wielding them. The Campbell's unique in that it's a more traditional hipfire LMG that shoots in a perfectly straight line with little to no additional kick. This means the usually problematic snipers for a build like this will not be an issue at all. Whilst its DPS isn't close to being the best in the game, what it is good at is sustaining damage on the soft spots of a target from virtually any range. Dozer faceplates won't be an issue, and unlike many high DPS SMG builds, you won't have to be point blank to make the most out of it. Unfortunately, it does have a little drop off at range, which is regularly not a problem for LMGs, bearing in mind they don't work well over distance anyway, but can be a bit of an issue here. Fortunately, it caps at 0.8, which isn't bad at all, when high fire rate weapons don't tend to feel the sting of drop off like poor shotguns do. With its impressive time to kill and ability to deal incredibly consistent damage without the need to often reload, it fits very well into an armor-gating playstyle. Berserker Anarchist might also be on your radar for build ideas, although that sounds like damage overkill to me. I prefer this copycat biker setup, which adores the Campbell's ability to kill fast and often, and makes great use of skills like Bullseye or Dire Need effortlessly. In fact, if you could fit a more impactful fully auto secondary into slot with the fairly dead Bonetti, this would be even more ludicrous, as you could simply use Copycat to maintain your damage uptime constantly by auto reloading both guns. As it stands, its reload is probably this weapon's only drawback, although 5 seconds tactical and 6 from empty is about par for the course in the LMG category. I do think this setup benefits from being on the high damage output side, as they always feel better to use than something like Tank Stoic, but do require a little more player experience to make the most out of. But once you get the hang of the kill or be killed playstyle Prospect demands of you, it'll be some of the most fun you will have playing Payday 2. Oh, and if you have a bit of a vendetta against dozers, it's not a bad setup to take your frustration out with, as it completely melts them one after another. If I were to make a weapon comparison, I don't think I'd draw your attention to the minigun or any of the LMGs. I find it feels closest to the power of the Akimbo SMG class, with the added bonus of having several times the ammo pickup. The Campbell has that same huge bursty impact, but more consistently thanks to its superior ammo economy. I mentioned having ammo difficulties when using this gun as more of a traditional LMG with a focus on the flamethrower, but of course as you boost a weapon's damage, you also improve its ammo pickup to kill ratio, meaning I found that roughly 10 ammo pickup per box is actually quite generous, especially when you can two-shot heavies with just a couple of crit body shots. Being as stable and accurate as it is, you can actually consider just trying to beam heads and not rely on skills like body expertise, but I've found that having higher damage multipliers on body shots really takes the pressure off when firing into groups of enemies and rushing more aggressively, which of course is an option with this build, as you'll be rapid across ground despite the apparent size of the Campbell. For me, this has been the most overwhelmingly powerful build I've used in a long time, even if it isn't the safest or easiest to play. The weapon itself is incredible, but not really in the way it was intended to be. Instead of being this unique utility hybrid that allowed you to switch between team support with the flamethrower attachment and true DPS with ballistic rounds, it's ended up being this strange bastardized crit machine that's immensely easy to use with essentially no recoil to speak of. And whilst I've had a lot of fun with it already, this does strike me as a bit of a shame. Mechanically, it's just not what Overkill had in mind when designing it, and although it remains unique as the only perfect 100 accuracy, 100 stability LMG I'm aware of in the game, that's not half as interesting as the original design concept, which is a bit of an issue in my opinion. Once again, just like with the Deimos shotgun, it's an example of stats over substance, and I hope that Overkill will look to tune these weapons in a way that brings more focus on what makes them unique. In any case, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy a pretty OP stat stick in the meantime. Let me know what your thoughts are of this DLC now it's been out for a few days. I'm still having a lot of fun with it, although I'd like to see a few changes to smooth out the power curve of a purchase. Thanks so much for watching this video, I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all very soon when I'll be talking about the very interesting Lost Tapes that might just be the start of a prelude to Payday 3. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.